Sup people, welcome. This is 1000 Words. This is Radu, and this is the subject of today's video. Today we're talking about the Olympus Auto-Wide 28mm f2.8. Before going into that, I do want to mention that by the grace of God and some very fortunate circumstances, I was able to self-publish my first photo book. This is it. Instead of 1000 words, well, that is the translation because it's în loc de 1000 de cuvinte, Romanian. And yeah, it's 100 pages of black and white photography, what is generally designated as street photography, but there are some portraits, there is some urban landscape, there is a bit of documentary work and journalism, very generically humanist or street photography. There will be a video on the matter, but I just wanted to mention this because I'm really kind of excited about that. This book is available for sale. There are still about 10 copies left, so if you want to get your hands on one, kindly send me a message. There's links to my socials in the description down below. You can write an email to me. It's not hard to get a hold of me. Just send me a line and we'll talk about how you can purchase one. It's just 25 euros, shipping sadly not included. That said, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this actual video. I do want to say that I think a lens review is a bit overdue. I haven't done one in a while. The process of making this book and publishing it and moving to a new apartment and everything that's been going on in my life meant that I have, together with the creative rut I talked about in a previous video, all that meant that I was kind of not... If you've come here for a lesson into how to say simple things in complicated ways, you've come to the right place. But yeah, let's talk about this tiny jewel of a lens. And when I say tiny, I do mean tiny. This little bugger is diminutive in size. Now, I should mention there have been two variants of this lens, and this is the latter of the two. You can distinguish between them very easily. The first variant of the 28mm f2.8 from Olympus mentions MC on the beauty ring here, which stands for its multi-coating. Now, they do both have multi-coating, but around the early 80s to mid 80s, when multi-coated lenses became quite usual and that was nothing to brag about, Olympus dropped the MC label from their beauty ring. That out of the way, I should mention this was rather a latecomer in the Olympus lineup of lenses, because for the longest time, as far as wide-angle lenses, Olympus only had, not mentioning the 24, but if we're speaking about 28mm, Olympus only had the 28mm f2. On the other hand, there was the very affordable and considerably slower 28mm f3.5, which I do not own, but I have heard it's quite a decent little lens, even if on the slower side. As far as the announcement date of this lens, I was able to find two dates. Some mention 1981, some mention 1983. Averaged them up, and this is a lens that was announced and subsequently launched at the very beginning of the 1980s. With a diagonal field of view of 75.3 degrees on full frame equivalent cameras, a minimum focusing distance of 0.3 meters, that's a foot for you Yankees out there, weighing in at just shy under 170 grams. I think it's 168 grams, with an impressively small length of just 32 millimeters, featuring an optical construction of 6 elements in 6 groups, an aperture ring which has very confident clicks, each stop ranging from f2.8 wide open to close down all the way to f22, with a focusing ring that travels just a tiny amount, not even quarter of a turn, about 75 degrees out. This lens made me kind of appreciate the focal range a lot more, because it's really wonderful to use. I absolutely love the fact that Olympus lenses, unlike most other lenses, have their aperture ring up here in front of the lens. This is where the aperture ring resides. Very comfortable, very confident clicks. A very beautiful lens. I do have to say I enjoy the aesthetics of Zuiko lenses quite a bit. The focus is very smooth, sufficiently damped in order to allow for precise and confident focusing. The short throw, coupled with the fact that this is a wide-angle lens, means that it's really easy to achieve a good focus. Everything about the usage and ergonomics of this lens is great. Really small, really light. Even with this original Olympus rubber hood, this is a very compact little lens. This is, I think the adapter for Sony I'm using is slightly longer than the lens itself is, and yet still it makes for a very compact package when used on my A7R. Now, as far as image quality goes, this lens is pretty fantastic. Where do I begin? Because I do have to say this lens has a few flaws which are rather apparent and easily apparent at that. But I think this lens carries its flaws very gracefully. And more so than it has flaws, it has qualities, and wonderful qualities at that. It's really impressively sharp. Now, until I would say even f8, yeah, the edges tend to be quite soft at f2.8. The center part of the lens is sharp, but the edges are quite soft. That is the case at f4, that is the case at f5.6. For anything critical, like doing architecture or landscapes, you do want to stop this lens down all the way to f8. Now, as far as geometric distortions go, this lens is really beautifully corrected. There is just the slightest hint of a barrel distortion, which is really easily fixable in post. On the subject of vignetting, this lens makes quite a bit of a vignette at f2.8. still very visible at f4, and only starting from f5.6 and f8 the vignette starts to disappear and image quality improves quite dramatically. The flaws out of the way, let's talk about the many qualities of this lens. I did touch upon the sharpness. And the sharpness, the clarity of this lens, its ability to very easily and beautifully reproduce textures and sharpness is quite outstanding. I think it's one of the sharpest lenses I have tried. As far as colors go, Olympus and their Zuiko line of lenses have always been really famous, and lately still their digital cameras. The entire Olympus brand has always been famous for their ability to reproduce and render beautiful colors. This lens is no exception. Colors are really vibrant, really vivid, they're lively, they're joyful, they're playful. At the same time, they have this, I would not say restrained, but they have a very graceful, very elegant, very gentle way to them. Now, as a comparison, I find Nikkor colors. There's a review for the 85 f1.8 on my channel if you want to take a look. But that is a good example of very bold, very outspoken colors. Beautiful still, but in comparison, well, the Olympus 28mm f2.8, well, it still produces very saturated and vivid colors. Colors are, at the end of the day, very beautiful, very vibrant and lively, in an understated kind of way. I do love the black and whites this lens makes. The tonality range it is able to render is really quite impressive. I think it's really faithful in the way it depicts a scene. There is a very fine and accurate gradation between the darkest darks all throughout the middle grays and the highlights towards the brightest whites. And this makes it very suitable for any sort of black and white work. And I do love me some black and white photography. This lens is really great. It's a joy to use. It makes for wonderful images. Of course, I would love to try a f2 variant of the 28mm, but realistically speaking, I don't think I will. It's never like I'm missing out on something. My camera is perfectly capable of shooting crazy high ISOs and still putting out very workable and decent images. So I never felt like f2.8 is dark. I mean, even in very dimly lit situations, I don't often go above 50,000 ISO, and that is still very serviceable. And yeah, never felt the f2.8 as a disadvantage. I mean, hell, a lot of contemporary lenses and wide-angle lenses still come out with f2.8 as their maximum aperture. So this being a 40-year-old lens is no slouch. Quite the opposite. This is a beautiful lens, literally beautiful and figuratively beautiful. Don't miss out on this. It's really a wonderful lens. And the one thing, and that is just specific to my very copy, is that the front element is kind of scratched up. It never ever showed up in pictures, but I do intend to buy a second copy and replace the front element of the lens, just so just for my peace of mind, let's say, because I want to know like I have a really good copy, because otherwise there was never a time that I felt that those micro scratches did anything to diminish from the image quality this lens makes. Now, shooting it directly into the sun, this lens fares surprisingly well. I do always use it with a hood, and more so than not because I have it and not because I need it, because I did try to shoot it right into the sun and it does flare, it does ghost a little, it does exhibit a bit of a diminishing of contrast, loss of contrast, but it's nothing egregious. It's really well controlled, as are the chromatic aberrations. The optics and coatings of this lens are nothing short of remarkable. There's very extremely little in the way of chromatic aberrations, you know, that fringing, usually purple or green fringing around high contrast areas. This really puts to shame a lot of contemporary lenses as far as chromatic aberrations go. Now, as far as the build quality, this lens is really beautifully built. An excellent piece of engineering, very much in the tradition of Japanese-made stuff. It feels like it's crafted with a lot of care, know-how, and yeah, it's just very, it feels hefty, it feels substantial, despite its small size and light weight. It's really wonderfully made. I'm sure this will last at least another 40 years. I guess that was pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do keep in mind that I will be making, let's not call it a review, but my impressions about self-publishing a photo book, how I did it, why I did it, what I learned out of it. I will speak about monetary concerns, how much it cost me, if I made any money back, am I poor now, am I rich now, all that in an upcoming video. So do press the subscribe button in order to be notified of future uploads. Like, share, comment. That has pretty much been all for today. I do hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, farewell. My name is Radu. Welcome to 1,000 words and welcome. What am I doing?
Okay,
No, you're okay. So people, just the nature of things. Nope. Very Welcome to your new. I've been having really. Nu ar trebui să menționez asta. I was able to. What? Welcome to the. Put out this book. Book. Sources. Now, sources. Now. Sources. Now, sources vary with a 6.3 75.4 degrees. I mean, diamond knurled, diamond texture knurled. I think I'm having a stroke. Como se dice? Literally. Yeah, it's that. It's literally.